If I had to start over in 2026 with just a camera, no clients, no network, no audience, and no fancy setup, this is exactly how I would make money. And I really want you to hear me on this because a lot of videographers are talented, creative, passionate, and still broke. Not because they suck at shooting, but because they're approaching the business side completely wrong. Most camera people are trying to become artists first and business owners later, and that's the reason they stay stuck. They spend all their time obsessing over color grading, lenses, frame rates, camera bodies, and how cinematic their work looks. But they never stop to ask the one question that actually matters, which is, what problem am I solving that people already pay money for? Because the truth is, you don't need to be the best shooter in your city, especially to make money. You don't need the craziest setup, you don't need the newest Sony body, the best drone, or the most cinematic edit on Instagram. What you need is to solve a problem that someone already values enough to pay for. That's the shift that changed everything for me, and it's the same shift I would make immediately if I had to start over from zero. The first thing I would stop doing is selling videos. And I know that sounds weird coming from someone in the video world, but hear me out. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, man, I really need a video today. That's not what people want. What they want is more customers, more leads, more sales, more attention, more authority, more trust, more visibility, more conversions. The video is just the vehicle. The video is just the tool. The real reason they are paying is because they believe that the content can help move their business forward. So when most videographers market themselves by saying things like, I shoot cinematic videos, I create high quality content, or I make professional reels, it sounds nice, but it's weak because it keeps the conversation around the deliverables instead of the outcome. Businesses do not care about your deliverable nearly as much as they care about what deliverable can do for them. So if I had to start over, I would change the language immediately. I would stop pitching myself as a videographer and start positioning myself as somebody who helps businesses grow using content. That's a completely different conversation. That's how you stop being seen like the camera guy and start being seen like somebody valuable. The next thing I would do is I would pick a market and stop trying to work with everybody. This is where a lot of creators mess up. They want to be open to anyone and everyone because they think more options means more opportunity. But in reality, it just leads to confusion, weak messaging, and random inconsistent income. If I had to start over, I would pick one category of client where content clearly helps make money. I would choose people like realtors, med spas, gyms, restaurants, personal brands, coaches, car dealerships, or local service businesses. Why? Because all of those businesses benefit directly from visibility and trust. And when content is tied closely to attention, leads, and revenue, it becomes easier to sell, easier to prove value, and easier to turn into a recurring service. That's what you want. You don't want to just be creatively impressive. You want to be commercially useful because when you are useful, people keep paying you. Once I picked a lane, I would create a simple offer. And this is important because a lot of people think making more money means building some huge complicated package with 10 different deliverables and a bunch of bells and whistles. I would do the opposite. I would make the offer easy to understand. Something simple like, I come in once a month, capture a batch of content, and turn it into short form videos your business can use to attract attention, build trust, and bring in more customers. That's it. That is clean. That is easy to explain. That is easy to remember. That is easy to sell. Most business owners do not need a film school pitch. They need clarity, and clarity closes. One of the biggest mindset shifts I would make early is understanding that most businesses do not need one amazing video. They need consistency. They need regular content. They need someone who can help them show up online again and again and again in a way that feels strong and on brand. That's why retainers are so powerful. Businesses are not buying clips. They're buying momentum. They're buying consistency. They are buying the feeling that their brand is active, relevant, and visible. That is why I would structure everything around a recurring monthly offer as fast as possible. Because the goal is not just to get paid once. The goal is to build something that pays you every month. That is how you stop living gig to gig. That is how you stop stressing every time one project ends. And that is how you turn a camera skill into an actual business. Now, once I had my offer clear, I would start outreach immediately. And I would keep it simple. Not fake professional, not robotic, not a giant paragraph, just direct, clear, and useful. I would reach out to local businesses and say something like, yo, I noticed your brand has a lot of potential to look stronger online. I help businesses create content that actually attracts attention and customers. I would love to shoot you a sample or show you what monthly content system could look like for your business. That's it. Short, human, direct, no essay, no begging, no trying to sound like a corporate agency. You just need enough to open the door, and once the conversation starts, then you show them what you mean. Another thing I would focus on if I had to start over is speed. Not rushed, but fast. Most people lose because they overthink. They sit around trying to perfect their logo, their website, their branding, their reel, their pricing sheet, their business cards, and all this extra stuff before they ever make an offer. I would not do that. I would build while moving. I would get a simple offer, make a simple pitch, get in front of real businesses, and refine from the real feedback. That is where clarity comes from, not thinking in your room for 3 weeks. Clarity comes from conversations. It comes from offers. It comes from hearing objections. It comes from trying things and seeing what lands. Another huge thing I would stop doing is hiding behind gear. And a lot of camera people are addicted to the idea that the next purchase is going to unlock the next level. They think once they get the new camera body, the better lens, the better gimbal, the better drone, the better mic, they think they'll finally feel ready to charge more. And I get it, because gear is all fun. I love gear too, but let's be honest, gear can also become a distraction. Good gear absolutely helps, but gear is not what makes the business work. Positioning makes the business work. Communication makes the business work. Consistency makes the business work. Solving a real problem makes the business work. You can have a $10,000 setup and still be broke if your offer is weak. And you can make great money with a simple setup if your offer is strong and tied to business results. That's the truth that a lot of creators do not want to hear, but it's the truth that makes you money. I would also focus on making content that clients can actually use, not just content that impresses other videographers. A lot of camera people are creating work designed to get approval from other shooters instead of work designed to help the client grow. That means they're obsessed with transitions, speed ramps, crazy edits, and cinematic shots, especially ones that look cool, but they don't actually move the business forward. If I had to start over, I would still care about quality, obviously, but I would care even more about usefulness. Can this content stop the scroll? Can it build trust? Can it show the product clearly? Can it make somebody want a book, buy, or learn more? Because when your content starts helping a client get real results, that's when you stop being seen as an expense and start being seen as an investment. And that's where your pricing power really grows. Another thing I would do early is document the result. Even if you are brand new, you need proof. That proof can come in different forms, and it can be a before and an after of a page. It can be more engagement. It can be feedback from the business owner. It can be a message saying people came in because of the content. It can be a screenshot of reel doing well. Over time, you want to collect every signal that shows your content is helping, because testimonials, screenshots, and outcomes make selling easier. The more evidence you have, the less you have to convince. And if I had no proof yet, I would create it by offering a sample or discount first, literally right away. But because I want leverage, because I want a case study, I want to win. I want something real that I can point to. That first proof matters a lot. I would also think long-term from day one. A lot of creatives are only thinking about the next invoice. I would be thinking about systems. How do I make this easy to repeat? How do I streamline the shoot day? How do I organize content delivery? How do I build recurring model? How do I make the client feel taken care of? Because the goal is not just to work hard. The goal is to create a machine that brings in leads, closes clients, produces content efficiently, and keeps people paying month after month. That is how you scale beyond a random freelance energy. And I want to say this too, because it matters. If I had to start over, I will not wait to feel confident. Confidence is not what comes first. Action comes first, then clarity, then confidence. A lot of people think they need to feel ready before they start. Literally, pitching, charging, or positioning themselves differently. You do not. You need conversations. You need mistakes. You need awkward calls. You need offers that do not land. You need feedback. That is how you become dangerous. That is actually how you grow. Not by waiting until everything feels perfect, but moving until things become clear. So if I had to start over in 2026 with just a camera, I would stop obsessing over being the dopest videographer in the world or in the room, and I would focus on becoming the person businesses trust to help them grow using content. I would choose a profitable lane, create a simple monthly offer, tie my work to outcomes, keep my outreach direct, stop hiding behind gear, and build around consistency instead of one-off projects. Because at the end of the day, that is how a camera becomes cash. Not just by creating beautiful footage, but by solving problems that matter to people who already are willing to pay. And if you can make that shift, just a creative, and start thinking like a problem solver, you put yourself in a completely different category. That is when people stop asking how much for a video and start asking how soon we can work together. And that is the game. That is the real game. If you want to learn more about how you can learn literally how to implement this into your business, let me know in the comments or follow me on Instagram for more. Cameras to cash. It's that season, and it's specifically for a reason. Thank you.